We are back, and it's officially draft season. We got to enjoy it all. We've had a few weeks to digest. Over 500,000 trades have hit Dynasty Daddy itself. So there's a lot to talk about. People are starting to brush off the dust on their rosters. And these are going to be my 5 players that you should draft heading into your rookie drafts and beyond. These are some players that follow a certain range. And some are going to be high-end players, and some are going to be players where you're like, I guess we should take these guys. But understanding the process and finding values at different ranges based on your picks. So let's not waste any more time. Let's jump into it. Draft season's here. First up, everyone knows him. Who doesn't love a first-round running back that dominated in college? I'm, of course, talking about Omarion Hampton. To me, Omarion Hampton enters the draft with an incredible profile, ideal size, amazing 40-yard dash, and got that 22nd overall selection by the LA Chargers, landing in that Greg Roman run-heavy scheme offense. I'm very excited to see what he can do. They invested in the offensive line last year. They have Herbert, they have Ladd, they have a lot of other options as well. So Hampton really lands in an ideal spot for him to thrive. Y'all might have been thinking I was saying Ginty. Now, I'm not saying Ginty's a bad pick by any means, but to me, what I look at here, the historical hit rate of first-round draft capital running backs are amazing. They're some of the safest assets in the game. And for me, I'm going to be aggressively shopping any 103s I have or any 101s I have. If I need a running back, can I get into the top 2? Can I take Hampton? If I have the 101, can I trade back to the 102, pick up a big plus on top of that? And I'll just say, Hampton was no scrub, right? He had over 3,000 rushing yards at North Carolina and 30 touchdowns in his final 2 years. In 2023, he had 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns. Incredible stuff. And even last year, he did better. Over 2,000 all-purpose yards. He earned All-American and All-ACC honors in consecutive years. So, trust me, I'm an NC State fan. Things have been rough, and Hampton definitely made my Saturdays a nightmare. I'm a big fan of the profile, the landing spot. Obviously, the league believes in him. Everything's working out in his favor. Why am I saying trade Ginty for Hampton? Okay, I'm not saying, hey, give me a third or whatever. But there's a lot of options when trading back from the 101 to pick up extra value. And you might think it's idiotic for me to say that. But if we look at just last year's draft, we had a consensus 1 and 2. We had Caleb Williams and Marv. In those drafts, I was like, cool, could I just trade back and pick up the 103 and pick up a first or something like that? And then all of a sudden, you can take that player, pick up a same exact profile from a dynasty perspective. Early first round quarterback, early first round wide receiver. What's the difference between Neighbors and Marv? Nothing really. Right? It's just public sentiment leading into the season. But if we come in and, week 10's here and Hampton is crushing, he's going to be worth more than Ginty, and then you can get a plus on top of that. We saw that with Neighbors last year. We saw that with Daniels. We saw that with someone like a CJ Stroud the year before. It happens every year. There's going to be, you can tear down, soak up some value, especially if your team is weak in terms of you don't have a ton of value. If you're starting Wayndale Robinson, if he's in your starting lineup, go back, pick up some extra value. A couple extra darts are going to help out a long way. And I will just say right now, people are starting to catch up to it, right? We can see Ashton Ginty kind of goes a whole round or a half a round or so ahead of Hampton in both KeepTradeCut and ADP Daddy. Doesn't mean there's a huge gap, but if you can pick up an extra significant plus, kind of a first in value of some kind, I'm definitely doing that. Here's a great example. Today, right? So this is weeks after the draft, we had Breece Hall in the 102 for the 101. You don't have to worry about running back now. That's an amazing deal. Here's the 108, the 102 for the 101. Okay, awesome. I'm walking away with Egbuka and RJ Harvey on top of Hampton. And if Hampton turns out to be 90% of what Ginty is, okay, you won that deal. Those are the perfect types of deals to look at. This is literally the deal I made last year. Obviously, rest in peace, Tank Dell. But Tank Dell was a much better piece last year, and I did trade from the 102 to the 103, pick up a free Tank Dell. Obviously, sometimes it backfires, but that process tends to work. And this is juicy, 101 plus the 102 and get Jonathan Taylor. There's a lot of those deals out there. People really want Ginty, but if you squint, if you take out the names, you take out the hype, definitely shop those picks around. Don't just, sit on your hands and say, I got Ginty, don't have to worry about anything. Now, I hear what y'all say. Jeremy, you only like running backs. You always say buy running backs. Well, let's change it up. I got a wide receiver for you that I am looking to target in those mid to late first round picks, and that is Ohio State legend, Emeka Egbuka. Obviously, his landing spot is the concern. Everyone's like, oh no, he got picked to a team that already has Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Is he going to see the field? Is he, is all he going to do hold water bottles? Well, let me tell you, the Buccaneers threw for 4,800 yards last season. This is one of the premier passing offenses in the league. So it's one ball, but there's enough ball to go around. As well as Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are both older. Mike Evans is on his last year of his contract. So there's a lot of uncertainty potentially heading into next year. On top of that, Godwin's coming back from a pretty tough injury. So I could see them potentially slow rolling it, saying, hey, we got the insurance policy of Egbuka. Okay, cool. So you're probably like, why do I want an insurance policy with a first round pick? That's a pretty big investment. Here's why we don't want to have memories of goldfish. JSN, Rome Odunze. Both of them entered situations. JSN had Lockett and DK Metcalf. Rome has DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. And what happens there? Both of these guys hold their value. I'll pull up a chart from Dynasty Daddy. Check it out. Check it out if you haven't yet. But what you can see is even though both these players landed in crowded spots and didn't have amazing rookie years, both these players held their trade value at a first edition value. So not only do you have the high upside of a first round wide receiver that could break out and be the next, Malik Neighbors or someone crazy and have elite dynasty value, you also have the insulation of if he does nothing, people are going to be like, well, he was behind DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. He was behind Lockett and DK Metcalf. There's a bunch of excuses built in already. I'm a big fan of Egbuka. I don't think Egbuka is the same talent as a Jason or a Dunze, but that being said, the insulation's there. It's kind of cross positionally like a Penix last year. We only saw him for 2 games, but it doesn't matter because he's going to be a top 10 quarterback that was selected. So why would I want to pick this guy? It's just because the insulation. It's insulation. He's a first round NFL draft pick. That is usually a premier pick. And just because this landing spot doesn't look good now, things can change. Injuries can happen. Mike Evans could retire or leave the team. There's a lot that can happen. And Egbuka is just going to slot in ahead of Jalen McMillan. I'm sorry if y'all held on to him, but he's going to be the guy long term. And he could totally crush this year as well because it is a pass-heavy offense. This team loves to pass the ball. Is it the redshirt season? Potentially. It is potentially somewhat of a redshirt season. But if you are a team that is desperate for wide receiver upside, he's probably one of the best values that you can get in the draft. And sometimes he even falls to the second round. Don't let that happen. Don't make that mistake. Now, I don't know if people are ready for this, but RJ Harvey getting some solid second round draft capital to the Denver Broncos with Sean Payton, which as a Panthers fan, boo, Sean Payton. But he did get an amazing landing spot. Pretty clear backfield. There's kind of a couple gadget satellite backs there. Still, it's the Hughes net of running backs back there. That is a weird reference.
Sick reference though, bro.
Oh, thanks, bud.
Dude, your references are out of control. Everyone knows that.
Sorry about that. But obviously, Peyton has a great history with running back production like an Alvin Kamara, Reggie Bush, Darren Sproles. I'll throw in Pierre Thomas. I've heard a lot of comps to him as well. Harvey is a guy they want. They reached on him crazy. Everyone was like, oh, RJ Harvey might be like a 4th round back, kind of in that Tuten range or something. But we saw him go in the 2nd round. They went out to get him. So this is their guy. And Harvey is kind of like a late 1st, early 2nd range guy flying up the boards using our new club exclusive, currently early access. We can see RJ Harvey is the #1 climbing running back. His value is up 61%. Obviously, that's just because he came out of nowhere with high draft capital, and everyone's like, oh wow. But he's sitting around, Christian McCaffrey. I don't know if I would take him over McCaffrey depending on my roster, but McCaffrey, Henry, Hubbard. There's a lot of players, and we can see his ADPs just shot up post draft. So people are selecting him. People are believing in him. And he's someone that those drafts that happened right after the draft, I was picking him rather high. I do think it's a little bit more of a fade depending on how high your draft is on him. But some people are going to be high. Some people haven't caught up. And if you haven't caught up, to me, he is. I know Henderson has a lot of hype, but he's kind of in that Judkins, Caleb Johnson range. Don't be scared to smash RJ Harvey. And here's what I always hear. Dynasty Daddy, the age. He's 24. I don't really care at running back, right? I mean, realistically, you have about 2 years of this player having dynasty value. If he comes out and crushes right away, I don't really care. Running backs typically aren't dynasty assets, especially ones I take in the late 1st. If you want kind of dynasty asset players, you got to be at the 102, the 101 with a Hampton or a Gene T. Peyton's scheme historically features running backs in the passing game as well, so we could also see Harvey's skill set used there. His draft capital definitely tells you the Broncos believe in this dude. They way overdrafted for him, but that also means that they have a high level of conviction, and that backfield's empty, man. I mean, I could probably find a role in that backfield. Well, unless you're for Blake Watson. Sorry. We all believe last year. But yes, definitely don't be afraid to tier RJ Harvey with those guys. He is certainly a late round first. Maybe if you're feeling spicy mid, but definitely a late round running back to look at. Now here's the fun one, right? Cam Skattebo. Let's get those mid-second range running backs on the board. And why do I care about Cam Skattebo? New York Giants did select him with an early 4th round pick, so there's some level of investment there. That backfield is also wide open. What do you got? You got Devin Singletary, and you got Tyrone Tracy. Tracy was also a late round pick last year and suffered from fumbling problems. So what did they do? They went out and got a running back that didn't fumble once last year. And that's what Skattebo is. Obviously, he's not a full 3-down back, but he's just a violent playmaker, right? I mean, he has a violent running style, and the Giants just need any help at this point. You know, it's neighbors, and it's just throw at the neighbors at this point and hope that Tyrone Tracy doesn't fumble. And that's something we saw, too, with the over 500,000 trades that were added to our database in the past couple weeks. We saw Tyrone Tracy break 1,000 trades in a week. People were moving, buying Tracy, a lot of uncertainty there. As we say in the dynasty streets and honestly the fantasy streets, if there's uncertainty, you got to kick it around. There could be a buying opportunity for Tracy if someone's very low on him. But in general, what I see here is Cam Skattebo is going to have some role, probably some sort of committee-ish role, but probably going to have valuable touches in that offense. There's nothing really going on there. It's like the Utah Jazz's offense, right? It's just marketing and nobody. If Cam Skattebo can be a spark plug for that offense, that's important. Now, I will say, I feel like people are starting to hype him up. Everyone watched Cam Skattebo literally will his team to the finish line to almost beat Texas in the playoffs. So a lot of people do hype him. I do think it's kind of dependent on leagues. How high are people on Skattebo? I'd be looking to take him in that mid-second range just because once you get to, mid-second round pick, wide receivers or later or, random tight ends, I feel more inclined to just say, give me a running back that some people believe in. He can have 1 or 2 good weeks. I can flip him for something significant, or I can just use him because there's a lot of hype around him. He's a great buy at that mid-second round range. Let's stick with the fun names here. Jacksonville Jaguars running back Tuten killed at he was my sleeper, man. He was my sleeper. I was like Virginia Tech in the ACC. I'm a big fan of him. He goes at the combine and blows it up. I mean, just absolutely dominates the combine, and then gets that early 4th round draft capital right next to Cam Skattebo. I think he actually went ahead if I recall correctly. Why do I like this spot? Balk is gone. We got a new GM, new coach. This coach made Bucky Irving the dynasty darling that he is. And what we have here is a new regime bringing in their guy with a Travis Etienne that was awful last year and Bigsby, who's also very, very poor. And with Etienne on his last year of his deal, I expect Tuten to have some sort of run in this offense eventually. It'll probably start off with Etienne and Bigsby doing their thing, but Tuten will probably work his way into this offense. I'm always scared. When a new offense is installed and honestly a new coaching staff, because a lot of these guys that aren't crushing it are open for disruption. And that's where I look at Etienne, where I look at Bigsby. These guys are not tied to this new regime, and just give me Tuten in the range I'm able to pick them. A lot of times you can get them late second, early third. In this range, most of the guys are just going to be on my taxi squad anyway. Can I get a guy that has the upside to be a Bucky Irving or even like 60% of a Bucky Irving, which is a huge win with a 3rd round pick? And I just want to show, I showed this on a previous video, but I wanted to show, if we look at, and it doesn't look as good anymore, but if we look at players that are outside of kind of that mid-second or better from last year's draft that actually hold dynasty value, what we see Bucky Irving and we see Tyrone Tracy. These players are players that were selected in later round picks, and they are still holding their value, with Bucky being a late 3rd in startup drafts. Tyrone Tracy falling down because Cam Skattebo, but still a 10th round pick, still has some value and probably will still have some run in New York. And then you also have players like a Trey Benson, a Brandon Allen, players that have a story that you can weave. Tuten's going to at least be in that Trey Benson, Brandon Allen range. If I can get a 3rd round pick that's going to be a top 20 valuable player in terms of that draft class next year, give it to me. I need to have some sort of flexibility with that pick, whether he crushes or just sits on the bench like Trey Benson. So Tuten is my guy. I said it in my pre-draft stuff, and I'm saying it now. Great landing spot for him. He's someone I'm looking to scoop up in those later picks. And that wraps up what we got here today. Obviously, if you made it this far, thanks. I mean, this is a fun thing to put together. All the rookie drafts are starting to hit, and it's good to have some high-level targets like a Hampton, Egbuka, also understanding what I'm looking for in those seconds, thirds, maybe even fourths or fifths if you're getting spicy. This running back class is super deep, so even if I'm in the fourth or fifth, just give me any running back that somehow got picked somewhere. There's a lot of value on this board, so I'm excited about all of that. If you have your own trade questions, feel free to post below, but we also do every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, a trade live stream, and sometimes do some mock drafts as well. So come hang out, post your trades. We'll talk about them, break down your teams, all of that. So it's a great time there. I'll see y'all there. See y'all Tuesday.